The late 1960s were the peak of the muscle car revolution. High horsepower V8s roared across American streets, but road racing was a different beast. The SCCA's Trans-Am series didn't care about cubic inches alone. It demanded precision, handling, and engines under 5 liters, 305 cubic inches max. Ford had already responded with their Boss 302. Chevrolet was caught off guard. Their performance lineup included the 283 and 327 small blocks, but neither could fit within the displacement limit and win on the racetrack. They needed something radical. So deep inside GM's performance division, engineers began work on a secret weapon. Not a production engine, but one designed to skirt the rules, dominate the series, and turn the tide in Chevy's favor. It would become the heart of the Z/28 Camaro, a high-revving, small-displacement rebel. Its name? The Chevy 302. Built not for sales or comfort, but for war. This engine wasn't born in a showroom. It was born to win. The SCCA's Trans-American Sedan Championship laid out strict requirements. Engines had to be under 305 cubic inches, and at least 1,000 production units had to be sold to make a car eligible. Ford's Boss 302 fit neatly into those rules. Chevy's best options, the 283 and the 327, couldn't deliver both the displacement and power. But Chevrolet had a hidden weapon. Vince Piggins, the man behind the Corvette Grand Sport and the Black Ops of GM racing. His idea? Combine the 327's 4-inch bore with the 283's 3-inch stroke to create a 302 cubic inch small block that revved higher, spun faster, and fit the rulebook to the letter. GM wouldn't publicly endorse it due to their corporate racing ban, but Piggins pushed it through anyway. The result? A Frankenstein power plant designed purely for homologation. It wouldn't be mass-marketed or advertised. It was engineered to do one thing: beat Ford at their own game. And it did. The Chevy 302 wasn't built for comfort or cruising. It was born to race. Starting with a forged steel crankshaft and pink connecting rods, Chevy engineers built an engine that could scream past 7,000 RPM without blinking. Solid lifters tapped a wild Duntov 3030 camshaft, designed more for track than traffic. The heads were high-flow units borrowed from the fuel-injected 327 Corvette. Up top, a massive 780 CFM Holley 4-barrel carb sat on a high-rise aluminum intake. Officially, GM rated the engine at just 290 horsepower, but that number was pure fiction. It made more like 360 in reality, with torque peaking at high RPMs. At idle, it was lopey and rough. At full throttle, it sounded like a chainsaw on fire. Every part screamed racing. This wasn't an engine for Sunday drives. It was a raw, screaming factory hot rod stuffed into a Camaro shell, and it would soon become a Trans-Am terror. Homologation rules required Chevy to sell the 302 in a street-legal car. That's where the Z/28 Camaro came in. Created specifically to get the 302 onto the track, the Z/28 wasn't your average muscle car. It came with heavy-duty suspension, quick ratio steering, power front disc brakes, and a 4-speed close-ratio Muncie transmission. No automatic, no air conditioning, just raw purpose. Initially, Chevy didn't even market the Z/28. Dealers had to know what it was and what it was for. Most people walked past it in showrooms, confused by its small engine and stiff ride. But racers, they knew. The Z/28 wasn't about straight-line drag races. It was a road course warrior. In 1967, it entered Trans-Am and began carving corners. By 1968, it was winning. The 302 was the engine it was built around. Lightweight, rev-happy, and surgically precise. The Z/28 wasn't just a car. It was a Trojan horse, smuggling race-spec performance onto the streets. Enter Roger Penske and Mark Donohue, one of the most dangerous duos in racing history. Penske ran the team like a Fortune 500 company. Donohue was a driver-engineer who understood every bolt on the car. In 1968, they campaigned the Z/28 with Chevy's 302 under the hood. They finished second in the Trans-Am Championship, close but not quite. In 1969, they came back with a vengeance. Acid-dipped body panels, trick suspensions, and tire tricks gave them the edge. But it was the engine, the 302, that did the heavy lifting. Tuned to the edge of legality, it revved clean to 8,000 RPM with surgical throttle response. The Camaro crushed the competition. Ford, AMC, and Mopar couldn't keep up. Donahue drove it like a scalpel, precise, deadly, unstoppable. That year, Chevrolet won the Trans-Am championship. The 302 had done what it was built to do: defeat Ford, conquer the field, and etch its name into racing legend. The greatest rivalry of the Trans-Am era was Chevy versus Ford. Specifically, the 302 versus the Boss 302. On paper, Ford had the upper hand. The Boss used large valve Cleveland-style heads for superior high RPM flow. It was backed by Ford's full racing support. But Chevy had ingenuity. Their 302 was lighter, revier, and backed by Penske's brilliance. The races between Mustangs and Camaros became legendary. Fenders bashed, engines screamed. Every track was a battlefield. The Boss 302 was all aggression, a brute with big lungs. The Chevy 302 was finesse, a scalpel with a steel edge. Some races went to Ford, but in 1969, Chevy proved its engine and its car were the total package. Fans took sides, drivers took risks, and engines took a beating. But through it all, the 302 earned its stripe. It wasn't just powerful, it was racer's power. Balanced, nimble, and unrelenting. A warrior built for war and war only. The 302 was brilliant, but it was never meant for mass production. It didn't behave like a street engine. Cold starts were rough. Idle was lumpy. Below 3,500 RPM, it was sluggish. But above 6,000, it came alive. Unfortunately, most buyers never pushed it that far. It was misunderstood, uncomfortable, and expensive to maintain. Chevy produced it from 1967 to 1969, solely for homologation. In 1970, the new LT-1350 replaced it in the Z/28. It had more torque for street use, a smoother idle, and broader appeal. Emissions laws and insurance crackdowns were looming. The 302 was too wild, too raw, too specialized. It wasn't a compromise, it was a purpose-built tool, and in that purpose, it was unmatched. But the world changed. The muscle car era slowed. Rules shifted, and the 302 disappeared almost as quickly as it came, leaving behind a trail of trophies, broken records, and a legacy that refused to die.